Chuck Hutchison, the 35-year-old player personnel director turned offensive line coach turned interim head coach, will still be in limbo. He'll be without the top coaching job despite a near miracle finish.
If you can look at yourself in the mirror and honestly say, how much did Chuck Hutchison have to do with this thing being turned around?
That's a good question. I honestly would probably say that it was less than most everybody else had to do here. I've said all along that I really believe that I had the easiest job here, and I really feel that way.
Hutchison doesn't have particularly fond memories of those first few weeks as the head coach, but as the wins started piling up, it was a job he began to enjoy more and more.
Shoot, we were 0-9. You could have looked at my calendar and every day was crossed off. I couldn't wait till the season was over. And then all of a sudden we jump up and win a few ball games, and now, you know, football is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And, you know, I say, hey, boy, you know, I'm another Vince Lombardi. I got to look at myself very realistically and say, okay, how much of a part did you actually play in this? And given that, how much more do you have yet to go before you really can say you're truly a head coach? And believe me, I'll take a good hard look at that before I make that decision.
For the past couple of months, the new head coach, Charlie Sumner, has been at work. Not officially as the head coach, but he's been there evaluating personnel, keeping an eye on an operation of which he'll be in charge tomorrow. One might think that Chuck Hutchison was a bit worried about the man looking over his shoulder.
Not for a second, for two reasons. Number one is I have confidence in myself and my ability. And secondly, when you don't know what someone else is looking for, you might as well be yourself. Because if you're not yourself trying to be somebody else, you don't know that's what he's looking for anyway. And what the heck, you got a 50-50 chance of being the right person for the right job. And if you're not, let's find it out now before you get into the job and say both of us made a big mistake.
Hutchison will take a few days off to consider his future, but he says he's pretty certain he's not ready to clean out his desk.
What do you do?
Well, I'm one of these guys that all I did was bellyache and moan all year long, that I never had a day off and I'm tired and this, that, and the other. And now that I'll have one coming up, it'll last maybe 2 days. And then I'll be back doing exactly what I was. I have to have challenges and I have to stay busy. And I don't sit real well for very long. And I'll find something either to get me into trouble or to keep me busy, one of the two, or maybe both.
So all the while, until you or your bosses or whomever signs the paychecks decides otherwise, you'll still be evaluating the player personnel and working on the contracts and all that?
I guess I'll still be here until my key doesn't fit the lock anymore.